Yo, what's going on? We're back. We're back. We're so back. And we're so ready to defy some what? Some gravity? Are we gonna dance through life? I'm gonna hit all the puns. I'm gonna try and that might be the only ones that I know. But anyway, today we're gonna dive into the movie event of the year. That's not Moana 2, the most anticipated musical adaptation in quite some time, and the engine for tons of controversy and drama for the last year and a half, to say the least. It is Wicked Part 1. We're going to be covering that today. I'm very excited to cover this. I had a great time seeing it with my family. We took my 9-year-old niece to see it, and it was just a very fun time. It was one of the funniest things about it was when she looked over and was like, "It's too long," and I'm like, "Yeah, it is. It's what, 2 hours and 40 minutes." But you know what? That's the thing. Movies are getting a little longer. But you know what? When they're made this well, I can't really complain too much. But first, we're going to cover some major news that happened recently. We do have some casting news for the upcoming 2026 Christopher Nolan movie that's coming out that July, I believe is like July 17th. The next week actually is supposed to be Spider-Man 4, it's going to be a crazy month. But not only do we have confirmations that it's going to star Tom Holland and Zendaya, but Matt Damon's attached to star. I think he's one of the co-leads. Lupita Nyong'o and Anne Hathaway are also added, but I believe we just got word that Charlize Theron and Robert Pattinson have been added to this stacked cast. So I'm very excited to see what Nolan's got cooking up for this one. The rumor was that it was space travel. The rumor is that it's spies. The rumor is that it's detective adaptation, like based off of a Japanese film from the 90s. I think it's that third one, but it really could be anything. All I know is that, that all eyes are going to be glued to it after what he did with Oppenheimer, and I'm very excited to see what he does. Also, think about all the people that are in this movie that are still fitting Nolan into their schedule, and also there's the speculation that Downey Jr., who won an Oscar on a Nolan film, that he might be part of this cast as well, but Avengers might get in the way of that. But everybody is trying to make sure that this works, even with Pattinson filming the Batman Part 2 and Tom Holland doing Spider-Man 4, Anne Hathaway's doing Princess Diaries 3, lots of sequels. But those are all lucrative, huge properties, huge films that are going to connect with audiences, yet they're still doing everything they can to make sure that they're, first and foremost giving the Nolan film priority. So that tells me that this is going to be a really good script. We also, speaking of really good scripts, we finally got a trailer for Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Not Dead Reckoning Part 2. They dropped the Part 1 last year after, I think it led to like some kind of analytics that it led to less sales or less people wanting to go see it because they wanted to wait for Part 2. So they dropped the whole Part 1, Part 2 thing. I don't think it really matters. I think the people that are fans of this are going to see it no matter what. And I love the boldness in contrast to Dead Reckoning's palette, which is a little bit more oppressive when it comes to the color scheme. And the stunts, man, I just think Tom's really going to have something special here because they didn't really give away too much in the trailer, despite showing a lot of the action. So whatever he's got going on, I mean, the biplane stunt looks incredible. I remember when they teased that when he was introducing Top Gun Maverick. So you never know with Tom what he'll be able to, just have up his sleeve. So it should be a very fun time. May 23rd, around Memorial Day weekend. That one's going to be a blast. I think it's going to be a huge hit. I think it's going to be on the level of Mission Impossible Fallout, which to me, and anybody that knows me personally, they know that I think that movie is one of the greatest action films of all time. So I think it's going to be on that level. It's going to be one to watch for sure. And then last but not least, not movie news, but honestly, might as well be movie news. It's so cinematic. The new Kendrick Lamar album dropped on the Friday that Wicked came out. So he shocked the world again. He revived Bay Area G-Funk gangster rap. It's mesmerizing. It's awesome. Puts Drake to shame. He doesn't even say his name on the record, and I think that speaks volumes. Just to the level of success and the victory lap that Kendrick has had this year has been astonishing. An amazing album. I have a review up on YouTube that was just posted a couple days ago. So very excited about that one. I've been spinning it a ton since it released. So without further ado, though, let's talk about the movie with the soundtrack that hit number 2 because Kendrick blocked it from hitting the Billboard Hot 100 number 1. Let's talk about Wicked. My review released recently, and if you haven't read it, just know it was very positive. I was very positive about this movie. I think it's spellbinding, magical, heavenly, just all the positive magical adjectives that you could, come up with. You name it, it's there. But in this format, I really wanted to dive deeper into some of the major highlights, some mild lowlights for me as well, and just generally discuss what kind of impact this movie is going to have moving forward. So, looking at part 1 of this episode, the look of this movie. Now, there has been constant discourse online about the color grading of this film, and I think part of it is valid, mainly because I think the clips that we're releasing at the beginning of the really heavy marketing push for the rollout, like the month before the movie came out, they released a clip of Fiyero and Glinda, with Glinda flirting with him, and I think in the film, like in the context of the film, the way they shot it works. It's fun, it's kooky, really adds a lot to Ariana's portrayal of Glinda and her kind of flighty demeanor. But when that clip came out, the movie got a lot of backlash because of the way it was shot, the blocking and the flat lighting. And someone said it looks like a Capital One commercial. Honestly, it did. I was not excited to see this movie when it came to the visuals, but I think that you could really just it's easy to cherry pick these kinds of things and then just leave out the spots where I think John Chu's lighting decisions really worked and where the practical sets completely shine. I'll get to that in a second, but the color grading for me was not really an issue at all. Actually, I thought they did such a good job capturing the boldness and the brightness of the major colors, like the pink and green palette. They were able to get that on a level that was really striking, in my opinion. And the flat lighting that kind of would dull the faces of the actors, I wasn't a fan of. That was something where I felt like certain parts here and there just did not click. And then the animals as well looked a little weird to me. But it's when you have a 2-hour, 40-minute film, you can't really complain too hard about minor nitpick small scenes that don't really detract from the overall enjoyment. Because when you look at practical sets, I mean, they planted so many flowers for this. They built so many sets. They had a train that came in that actually exists. So when you look at that perspective of the filmmakers, that they wanted to make this a real place, especially in a landscape where we have consistent CGI usage for just really basic things that could be given more effort if the budget allowed for them to emphasize practicality. In that climate, it doesn't allow for more creativity like this. And I think John Chu's decision to really make this a real world, it's very much felt in how the movie translates on the screen. The visual language of the film is it's exhilarating, it's exciting, it's wonderful. It gives you that passionate feel behind the camera. It makes you think that all of these decisions are intentional, and that when it comes to the adherence of the source material, and how it visually translates to us, the audience. Being someone that has seen Wicked, not on Broadway, but I saw it 7 years ago, I believe, in Cincinnati, And I remember just like the just such like high production value, just for a stunning level of detail that was being put on display. I think a lot of those details can get lost when you're doing something that's a lot more maximalist. And here, I feel like the movie is able to carry over those kinds of elements from the musical into a film format, and it's actually able to toe the line between realism and the fantasticality, if you will. Like her green skin and her ability to fly on the broom and all the magical things that happen, they do happen in a grounded context. So the way that it looks, like the way that he's able to get you to view this world through like more of a realist lens, it makes the fantastical parts a lot more shocking and a lot more vibrant. So I really enjoyed how this movie looked, with just some minor issues with some of the color grading, but overall I think film Twitter will make every excuse to try and blow this out of proportion, and you'll have people saying, "Oh, I'm a cinematographer, and this is what my color grading would look like," and it looks like shit. So, I don't think that that's a valid criticism at this point. I think cinematographers have a lot of hard work that they have to do, and they have a lot of timelines to meet and studio demands, and trying to and trying to like just follow like a format that allows them to save money. So I think we often too much are considering that every cinematographer has to be Greg Fraser from Dune Part Two. So like, yeah, just go easy on him. Come on, the movie looks great. It's fun. When it comes to how it feels though, they do a great job in vacillating between tones. I think I spoke of this in the review as well, but like, you're not able to let the major moments of character, they're not able to work if you don't have a grounded connection in terms of this story, because that's where people fell in love with the story, was Glinda and Elphaba. The reason that the Gregory Maguire novel was so popular was not just because of the revisionist version of Oz, but it was also because of how he treated those characters like real people, like grounded, realistic depictions of relatable themes when it comes to these, when it comes to both of them learning how to grow out of their perceived notions about the world. And I'll get into that when it comes to the performances, because I think the performances really capture that. But when it comes to the writing, using portions of the play and when it came to how it was portrayed on stage, but also adding some things in. John Chu does a really great job in like being able to keep the tone consistent in the places where it needs to be. So when it comes to the emotional background, like for Elphaba, for instance, that feels heavy. It feels weighted down by Elphaba's consistent feeling that that she doesn't have to care what other people think, yet she does. And I feel like then on the flip side, you see Ariana Grande's Glinda, where there's a lot of hilarity that is an undercurrent and like wonder in her scenes, and then you kind of get to know where her allegiance lies. It's all like very selfish, even though she's trying to like operate on this level that's like in a sense operating for the greater good. I guess Glinda the Good. I'm like literally explaining what she actually refers to herself as, but it's funny. I think they point out the hypocrisy of Glinda, and I think they point out the resistance to change for Elphaba, the resistance to just like be able to let things go, to not be so headstrong. And I think they played around with that with you know, going back and forth between very serious scenes and trying to establish that connection, but also like giving us hilarious moments that are tied back to the musical, because I feel like the musical really, like the legacy of it endures throughout this entire musical adaptations DNA. And on top of that, the directionality and the geography of choose more action heavy scenes. I wouldn't say action because it's really not like an action film, but the blockbuster elements of it make it feel like you're watching a stage adaptation when everything's boldly coming together at the same time towards the end. Especially the climactic moment of defying gravity is truly astounding. And that would not be astounding without Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, who I really can't think of a better pairing when it comes to the casting here. I think they absolutely nailed it. Cynthia Erivo, my biggest concern for her was, I do think in past films that I've seen her in that she overacts. I think that she takes a little bit of her Broadway chops into film and is able to dial it up to an 11 that is not necessary. And I think she really just stifled all of that concern the moment that she sang The Wizard and I. Absolutely euphoric blast of heart in that moment. And I was just like, at that moment in the movie, I was like, she's going to be fantastic in this. And she was. And the thing is, Ariana Grande as well. Ariana is hilarious. Her hosting duties on SNL of like a few weeks before this movie came out were just absolutely just incredible, because her timing, and I think this has something to do with her musical background, her stage background as well. I think her timing is just so razor sharp, and she's able to, find these pockets that are really fun to like explore something that's a little bit more zany and weird when it comes to her humor. I personally I love the part where we're trying to get her in her dress and they're pulling her back, and then she they pull it really hard and she goes she points and goes, "That's the one." It's just her body language is hilarious. I laughed a lot when she just collapses onto her bed head first, and then also the I can't hear your guesses because this is a letter. So fantastic, so funny. I do think that she will win an Oscar for this. She's getting the same kind of momentum that Ryan Gosling got with Barbie, but I think it's overall like an even better performance. She's able to layer in genuine emotion and just heart and soul into this performance, and that doesn't happen without the chemistry between Cynthia and Ariana. And that's why I say that I can't think of a better pairing, because they are just like a match made in casting heaven. They're able to balance each other so effortlessly. I think Cynthia brings a very intense energy, and on the flip side, Ariana brings another type of intense energy. So they're able to quickly balance each other and find that happy medium once they get past the initial friction and conflict. And I think that scene where they're mirroring each other's dances, that was like some of the best acting I've seen this year. I think they were able to do a lot with a little. And you gotta really, you gotta hand it to the supporting actors here, like Bo and Yang as well, for being able to take that comic relief portion when Ariana's switching over from comedy to drama in that moment, for Bo and Yang, and I forget who the co-star's name, the other girl that's in this movie, for her to be able to take that in that moment and with Bo and Yang, and to ride with the comic relief to keep the tone like balanced. I thought that was great. It was very enjoyable. It reminded me of some older films like from the 90s that were able to switch up things like that. And speaking of supporting work, Jonathan Bailey is fantastic in this. His whole dance number, I remember that being probably my least favorite song in the original Wicked run. But man, he just makes it so much more lively and snappy And the fact that he did all of the dance moves, like the flipping of the book covers with his feet, I mean, truly an amazing performer. And I think it's interesting to me that Reggae Jean Page left Bridgerton, and we don't really hear too much of him anymore. I do think he's an amazing actor, but Jonathan Bailey stayed and is still like just getting these big movie roles, and I think he's gonna be a Jurassic World too. So good for him. I'm happy to see that things are keep things keep coming to him. Good opportunities that highlight how good of an actor he is, and here is no exception. And also, like the foundational elements of this movie allow for the supporting performances to really shine and prop up the two leads. So Michelle Yeoh, Oscar winner, like amazing actress. I'm saying that about all of them. I think I said amazing about like three different people, but it's true. I mean, the level of talent on display here is significant. And Michelle does a great job in channeling something that's a little bit more sinister, but nothing too sinister that it doesn't appeal to like the family friendly market that they're going for here. Again, that's an exercise in being able to keep the tone streamlined, and they do. But also Jeff Goldblum and Peter Dinklage offer up really good performances here that, despite the limited screen time, I think they're able to make their impact on the central characters that much more effective. But then again, none of that works without the purpose of this movie actually having like a fulcrum to it. And I think that's where some musicals really tend to drop the ball. I think one of them, Rock of Ages, I think came out 2012. I mean, I like that movie. It's fun, but I don't think it has like a central impetus for the characters that is all that compelling. So you kind of leave the theater thinking like, I mean, what was the point other than to have a good time? And not every musical has to be that way. Les Miserables, I think, is one where you could generally just say like the point for that one was to win all the Oscars, which it kind of did. But I liked this more. I feel like this one had a lot more attention that was being paid to how audiences feel about this material. Whereas like, a Les Miserables or what's a recent musical? The Mean Girls one that just came out this year. I feel like there's an element to some musicals that are trying too hard to get you to like them because they're doing the thing that that you like about the play. And I think this one was not really concerned about that, but more concerned about like making sure that that this alone was an adaptation of these characters that everyone loves, that was respectful to why they loved them, instead of trying to like piggyback off the nostalgia, which I think is really the big craze right now. And I said this about Gladiator 2 as well. That movie and this one as well did a great job at figuring out how to recontextualize legacy when it comes to this stuff. And that's extremely hard to do, especially when you're dealing with, 20 years of people just saying Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth, iconic Broadway performance, that like Tony winning musical that they were a part of. How do you follow that up by not trying to emulate that? You want to emulate what people thought was successful, but the thing is, that is not the same as now. Like people look at spectacle in a different way now. So people aren't going to gravitate to something that's done the exact same way. That's why Indiana Jones did not perform well last year, is because they tried to do the same thing that franchise had done in the past, and it's just like, well, it doesn't connect because we're not the same people. The culture is not the same. The environment in which this movie is being released is not the same. So the audience doesn't want those same things. And nowadays, I think Wicked connects more than ever because of this idea of individuality and finding your path. I think that's universally relatable, and it's so much different in a context where, we're coming out of a like 4 years ago. It's not that long ago. 4 years ago, we had a global pandemic. Lots of people died, and that's very bleak. But it's, I think, very true that people want to see something that kind of hits home on that idea of like purposelessness and finding out what your path is. And I think the whole animal thing, though it's not fully explored in this one, I think it's going to be explored more in part two. But having that as like the main plot line, and then paying it off with the spell that turns the monkeys like into those flying monkeys, like I really thought that was a great way to extend this lore and make it more tangible in this current landscape of like of trying to stand up for something that's right, stand up for like worthy causes, and just feeling like you're not doing enough, feeling like you're prioritizing your individuality over the external aspects of trying to make the world a better place. And that's a very good conflict. It's an really good like way to point to just society and like the constant struggle that we all have, I think, and be able to feel like, do we contribute to society, but also like my needs need to come first too. So I really loved that. I think that it gave the movie a lot more purpose, a lot more soul, like I said before. But yeah, I think Wicked just, it's a gloriously choreographed, really colorfully displayed, enchantingly magical musical experience, and it deserves to be seen on the big screen. So don't sing during the movie, though. Don't listen to The Rock, and don't listen to Cynthia Erivo. Do not sing during the movie unless you go to see it during the Christmas sing-alongs. But I'm in awe of the spectacle that it is, while like feeling so personal and challenging in its thematic appeal. So yeah, I love this movie. I think the commentary on it from Variety, that it's going to win Best Picture, is a little short-sighted and a little, steeped in recency bias. I mean, does anybody remember Dune Part Two? I know it came out in March, but like, come on, that is far and away the best film that's been released this year. And I don't think, I think Wicked's fun. It's enjoyable. It's great. It's a near perfect musical adaptation, but does it touch the level of like an instant classic like Dune? I don't think so. But at the same time, this is one of the best movies of the year, and I will expect to be putting it in my top 5 list that's coming in probably a month or so. So look out for that. But just one more year until we close this story out with Wicked Part 2. And I'd say, I mean, I'm far from being done covering Wicked until then. I have a video coming up on Gladiator 2 and Wicked, and why Glicked 24 is the movie event of the year. So keep an eye out for that on my YouTube. I recently watched Dune and Dune Part 2 as well. Got inspired to do some kind of video on what the new modern classic is. So look out for that in the coming months on the YouTube channel. Wicked's certainly going to be included in that mix. I'm trying to like figure out a way to talk about all of these new mega hit classics that have been coming out since 2021, 2022 timeframe. Yeah, there's just a lot of discussion to be had about where the modern blockbuster is going. Like, what is it going to look like when Tom Cruise isn't doing this stuff anymore? What is it going to look like when really we're like Marvel is not going to be the king of the blockbuster, which is kind of already happening? And what is it going to look like when James Gunn really kicks into gear with this new DCU? Like, is that going to be a titan of the box office, but also have an astounding level of quality attached to it? So there's a lot of questions in the air, and I think Wicked continues to raise more of them and get us to challenge the idea of like what a big movie, like an event movie, should be. So should be more to come on that. And yeah, check out this Substack space. Gonna have some more. I don't even know what am I doing the rest of the year. I don't know. Probably some more album reviews. Kendrick just dropped, so I got that one out. Father John Misty, I got another review coming out for Father John Misty, and then also for 070 Shake. Both really good albums. Definitely check out Mahash Mashana by Father John Misty, one of the best of the year. Released the same day as Kendrick, so I feel bad for the guy. I feel like every time he drops, Kendrick releases like not far after. And then also the 070 Shake record. I feel like nobody's talking about it, and they should, because it's such a fusion of like 80s R&B, new wave, some Kanye West inspired industrialism, like a la Yeezus. So really like that. So if you're in the mood for music recommendations, check that out. Also have a video on Agatha All Along coming as well. That my Let's Talk About series on YouTube. So that'll be fun. Lots of stuff to do. And then, oh yeah, Pertiti Picks is coming back. So my wife and I are gonna hop on, do a Gossip Girl episode. So look out for that. That might be your Christmas present on the channel. So keep your eyes and ears open for some more John Dudley Speaks content. Until that happens, this has been John Dudley Speaks, the podcast. I'm your host, yours truly, John Dudley. Thanks for tuning in.